I've been working as a professional route setter for a few years now, and one of the first things that I'll mention is that it can be quite strenuous in many different ways. Of course, you have the aspect that it's a physical work and you have to work on that physique quite a bit, but something that's often forgotten is that it's a creative job. It requires the mind to just be active constantly, since you're trying to figure out new moves and just work on those aesthetics and make things, just look interesting. And so for that reason, I think a great way to start the day and just to work on those mental skills is, with a little bit of
Skillshare.
That's right, Skillshare helped sponsor this video, and I've been using Premiere Pro for professional video editing for a few years now, and I recently bought a MacBook Pro for when I'm out and traveling. Because of that, I decided to try out Final Cut, which is a program that's specifically designed for the Mac OS, and luckily Skillshare has a course on just about anything, including this one called Video Editing in Final Cut Pro X from Beginner to YouTuber.
This is the class that I wish I would have had when starting out, and that would have really speeded up the process of learning how to edit.
And it's held by Ali Abdal, a YouTuber that I greatly admire who's also an excellent teacher. I honestly couldn't ask for a more comprehensive guide to Final Cut, and that's what you get on Skillshare. So, a big thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and in their kindness, they're also offering a free trial of their premium membership to the first 1,000 people to click on the link in the description box down below. After that, it's only around $10 per month. So, hop on the bandwagon, click on the link, and then we'll start route setting. So today we're going to take a look at what a regular day of route setting looks like for me, starting off with this part, which is just fencing off the area and getting the wall ready to be stripped. Primarily, we're going to take a look at 2 boulders that I'm going to set, and we're first just going to talk a little bit about what this process is like, because I'm guessing not a lot of people have seen what a day of route setting is like, and I figured it could be fun to just tag along. Essentially, it all starts with this. We strip up the holes, toss them on the ground, and then we have the wall. We have an empty wall. All the holes are on the ground, and so we pick them up using these buckets. And this is kind of where, because route setting, as I mentioned, it's a very physical work, and this is actually one of the bigger parts of it. It can be quite intense, like carrying, a couple of 100 kilograms of holes all in a day. And it's something you easily neglect when you think about route setting, because, the primary focus is, of course, just to put the holes up on the wall. But there's a lot of things that comes with it, including, taking the holes into the grip room and then into the washing room. And, this was an especially messy day in the route setting room, and I was lucky enough to have my colleague James here, who kind of saved the day by washing all the holes, so I could just focus on setting.
Freaking legend.
Anyway, once everything is in, I usually just clean up the mats a little bit, get everything ready for just to give a creative space, so to speak. And then I just place all the holes and boxes on the ground to play around with some visual ideas. Now, I personally usually do some sort of intermittent fasting, or at least I eat a very late breakfast or an early lunch. Not for any specific reason other than that my body just seems to work quite well with it right now. I like to get started as soon as I get into the gym. Anyhow, those are kind of the boring bits. Now let's jump into the fun part, which is the route setting. So my first idea for the day was to do a kind of competition style bouldering, or I'd rather say a more dynamic boulder. I wanted something that forces you to kind of coordinate your body as much as possible, but also make it intense on the feet. So you're not just pulling between these holes. You have to, just be quite solid with these. And let's have a look at how that process was like and what setting that type of boulder is like. So to start things off, I pretty much always just put up a general idea, a draft, so to speak, of what what the climber's gonna climb on. Usually there's not so much to talk about here, because boxes go up, holes go up, and I don't actually try anything for the first few minutes of setting. But once I start to get an idea up, I have to start trying it a little bit. When it's this early on in the morning, I try not to do too many intense moves. It's more about trying to figure out if the positions are going to work. It's especially important with this type of move where, if you don't set it well, it could ruin the entire wall if you start setting other stuff next to it. So you wanna get it good from the get-go. If I was setting more of a crimpy kind of regular outdoors climb, I would probably just put it up, warm up, and then try it later on in the day. but since this is a more complex boulder, I'm trying to just understand what type of moves I'm putting up from the get-go. So I'll attempt some of the positions, I'll see how it feels, and just trying to make sure that it's gonna work, even though I might not actually finish it when I'm setting it. So I'll do it at the end of the day once I'm properly warmed up, got climbing shoes on and all that jazz. I usually try and break the boulder a few times as well when I'm setting it to just see if there's some sort of obvious way that you can climb it without doing it the intended way. So at the end here, I kind of wanted this, as I mentioned, kind of feet intense part for the climber. And the thing is, with this type of move, with our climbing shoes, it's almost impossible to tell. So I just decided to put up the top tags and get the climb ready for when I was going to try it later on. Second off, I wanted to put up a boulder that was really intense on the fingers, but on a slightly easier level. So this one was supposed to be around 6C plus, maybe, while the first one was supposed to be a little bit more difficult, something you might have encountered in like a Swedish championship or something like that. Anyway, so this purple one was supposed to be intense, crimpy moves, but I also wanted to include this kind of competition style element because I was going for a theme this day. So I wanted the first move to be a little bit jumpy, a little bit tricky, and you know, for some coordination style climbing. I picked out these purple holds, and this is the process of setting it is actually, I tweaked it like 30 times before I decided on something that I actually liked. There wasn't so much to talk about, it kind of just went up. I tweaked some of the holds here and there, which is a very common thing you do when setting. You just toss things up, make some micro tweaks, and then you think you're done. So moving on from that was my regular warm-up routine. And usually when I warm up, I start off with a little bit of yoga of some sort. I just try and activate as many small muscles as possible. I don't have like a very strict routine when warming up for root setting. Usually I'll do a couple of pull-ups, as mentioned, the yoga, and maybe a few bicep curls or stuff like that. A couple of things with the bars. I didn't include everything in this video because there's a lot of small exercises that I think are not as relevant, but they're quite nice to include anyways. And once I'm done with this regular warm-up routine, I'll do a couple of light climbs just to get some movement in, to make sure that I recruited everything and that I can actually test climb them properly so that I'm in my regular shape, so to speak. And once the test climbing starts, that's the interesting part. That's the most fun part of root sitting almost. So for the first boulder, I wanted this kind of dynamic movement as mentioned. I wanted you to press from your right hand, catch the left hand, and then get the left foot up as well. It didn't go on the first attempt, but it did actually work on the second attempt, which was a bit surprising, and the movement felt really, it felt fluid, felt like it was good. Then this second part, which was supposed to be a little bit more delicate, seemed maybe a little bit complicated, a little bit morpho as well, meaning that it was kind of, you had to be quite tall to reach between these footholds and maintain it statically. So I decided to try a more dynamic approach and see if that could work better, just because, if it's dynamic, it's usually a little bit more just intense on technique than anything else. And I quickly realized that this little nubbin here wasn't actually being used, so I was, I realized that I could actually take it away and still have this dynamic move and just make it a little bit bigger. And I thought that was quite interesting, so I decided to keep it that way and took away the small jib. And once that was done, the entire boulder was done. So it was time to try it from the start. But I figured before we do that, I'll break it down a little bit for you. First move, as mentioned, go into right hand palm press. Get as close to the wall as possible so you can get your left hand up on this kind of trash sloper that's difficult to hold if you're just taking the swing. But if you get the left foot on, it's actually not so difficult. Once you have that, you have to sort of recuperate, get ready for the second move, which could be quite intense. It's quite scary jumping this far. I think it was maybe 2 meters between the two holds, which is quite a far jump to do on a vertical wall. Foot intense and just commitment intense. That's the name of the game on the second move. And it did work out quite well. So yeah, I hope that didn't go too fast for y'all. But yeah, let's have a look at the entire thing from the start, just how it looks in real time, so to speak. And that was it. Alright, let's talk a little bit about the purple boulder. So the purple boulder actually went on the first attempt, and since this one was a little bit more, it was a little bit easier for me. I didn't have to you know, focus quite as much. It was not so much to talk about here either because of that reason. So I'll break it down a little bit so you can understand what my ideas were. As mentioned, I wanted this kind of intense coordination move at the start. You didn't actually have to do it as it was right now, which we'll go through in a few seconds. But then I wanted this part to be the key to the boulder. This was the most crucial part. You have to sort of dig into this nasty crimp and really get your hips in on the wall so you can get to this next hold. Once you have those two in opposition, the position isn't actually too bad, which allows you to go up to the finishing hold. From there, it was a little bit tricky to get into the right position, which was something I wanted to force as well, and I do think that did work out quite well. As mentioned, you could kind of break the start a little bit. This left foot version was a little bit easier, so I decided to move up the foothold, and that was pretty much all the tweaking I had to do for this boulder. So yeah, that was briefly what I do when I'm actually setting. I try and always include a little bit of weight training or some sort of like rehab, prehab, anything that's necessary after my setting days. So on this day, for example, it was upper body, so it was quite similar to my warm-up routine, but with higher weights and more power, I'd say. Like here, I'm trying a little bit harder. I'm not doing this to really build any muscle because, frankly, that's not always great as a climber. It's good to stay a little bit lighter. I do this because it does help with my setting. It does help me feel a lot more energized during each setting day, and it does help my training in the same way. So that's why I think weight training seems to help me quite a bit both as a climber, but also as a route setter. Alright, so that's the gist of what a day of route setting looks like. There's a couple of things I didn't mention, like we put up grade tags, we watched like climbers on the boulders, see how they perform on them, see if we need to tweak anything, and well, we filled in more boulders on this section, for instance, so there's not just 2 boulders in each section. But this is the gist of it. This is basically what the majority of the day looks like. But yeah, before we wrap everything up, I just want to mention that the holds that you saw in this video, the green ones, are actually a gift from Euroholds for a giveaway that we're doing on my Instagram. So yeah, you should definitely check that out. We can take a look at another boulder I set with them while we talk about this, because the giveaway is, yeah, it needs a little bit of explanation. Essentially, Euroholds are giving away these holds called the Brodies. You can read all about it on my Instagram page if you want all of the information, but essentially they're just really sick holds. I enjoyed a ton setting with them, putting them up. I could even put them up on this overhanging wall and they still function quite well. And the giveaway is quite simple actually. All you have to do is like the post, follow me, follow Euroholds on Instagram, and then just tag a friend, tag a gym that you want to send the holds to, just tag someone, and that's your entry to the competition. And also you can enter as many times as you want. The only requirement is that you tag someone in order to actually get into the list of people who can win it. And yeah, that's what I wanted to mention before we wrap it up. Euroholds giveaway, check it out on my Instagram. I'll put a link, or this is the name of it. And yeah, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, subscribe, like the video, comment if you have any questions. I'll try and respond to as many as I can. And I'm heading off to Innsbruck in 2 days, so that's gonna be a lot of fun. Let me know if you have any questions about that. I'll bring the camera, so if there's anything you guys want to see, I'll try and make a video of it. Let me know that in the comments down below as well. And otherwise, I'll just see you in the next one. Peace out, folks.